So Tyler, I mean, you have quite the background from ski instructor all the way up to CEO and MD at MDR. So with experience, I guess at EMY as a CPA, moving into investment banking, up to Barry's right hand man, and now you're kind of on your way. So can you talk a little bit about kind of how you worked your way through those different channels and how you made it to where you are today, going I guess back to college and through your higher.
Sure. So my first job in the hospitality business was as a baggage handler at Delta Airlines at LAX.
Okay.
Right. If you call that hospitality, the bags didn't really talk back.
That's
but,
where it starts, though. That's the hospitality.
That's where it
experience.
starts.
Right.
Then I was a busboy at the Hard Rock Cafe in Hawaii for a little while, and I was a valet parking guy for a long time. And I love traveling. I love the business, and so I was drawn to the hotel business. And it's complicated. As we talked about today on the panel, it's a finance business, it's an operating business, it's a macro business and a micro business all at the same time.
Right.
And it's not for the faint of heart. It's very volatile, and it's a tricky business.
Right.
And all those things appealed. My background is quite varied, and I think it's fun to be part of an incredibly dynamic business.
Right.
Where there are big opportunities and big risks as well.
Right. And I mean, just jumping, I guess, into the panel, because we had a guest actually speak out about kind of why do I take the risk in real estate?
Mm-hmm.
And some people say, well, if you're not, available to take that risk, then don't get into the industry. And I think, with investing in the hotel and hospitality space, with high risk comes high reward, and that's where you see these high rates of return. Can you talk about maybe some of the projects that you've worked on kind of in your tenure that you've seen like these greater rates of return that you may have taken on maybe from something on the lower end where it didn't work out as well and something on the higher end where it was a bonus?
Sure. I think a lot of young people mistake risk equals reward. That if you go out farther on the risk spectrum, that it results in higher returns on investment.
Right.
What nobody, because that's what media talks about, is the huge wins and the big successes. What they don't talk about are all the people along the way that lost money because they took risk. They couldn't manage their way through it. There was a couple of hiccups and they had some problems.
Right.
So risk does not equal reward. You got to be willing to lose it.
Right.
In order to earn nice returns. And sometimes returns come from better operations. Sometimes they come from appreciation of underlying land and real estate value. Sometimes they come from brand affiliation. Sometimes they come from investing capital in the building.
Right.
So we've seen all those situations in the past. And the hotel business is extraordinarily unique. Each piece of real estate is totally different, and it's very hard to standardize and say, this is this market and that's that market. In Manhattan, the difference between 56th Street and 55th Street can be huge.
Right.
Right. The difference between being on 5th Avenue and being on 7th Avenue can make all the difference in the world.
Right. And you actually brought that up in the panel with kind of the unsavvy hotel, investor where maybe they open up on the wrong corner and that can cost them kind of getting the free lunch versus kind of maximizing profit. So I guess, yeah, it all comes down to location, and kind of your savvy investor would know kind of where the best place is to kind of invest at that time. Can you talk a little bit about the Sheraton, kind of how it fluctuated in EBITDA? You went through it a little bit on the panel. Are there any ways to kind of, like you said, you match up your assets and liabilities with duration and kind of investments to limit risk and limit your exposure? How to kind of protect yourself against these fluctuations? I understand it's market driven for the most part, and hotel sector tends to lag with the market slightly. Are there any defense mechanisms that you kind of take on to fight these volatility moves?
It's very hard to do.
Right.
I think you can mitigate the volatility somewhat by having a special product and by using modest leverage.
Right.
Right. You decrease your risk profile strictly by using less leverage.
Right.
And I think to the extent you have a unique product, we have the Highline Hotel over on 10th Avenue and 20th Street, and it's neat.
Right.
It's got a lot of je ne sais quoi. It's a product unlike anything else, certainly on the west side, but unlike anything else in Manhattan.
Right.
Big room sizes, but a different level of product.
Right.
And I think people gravitate toward that. We have no ties in the building,
Right.
right? Which traditionally in the hotel business is a bad thing.
Right.
Normally the guys with ties pay the high rates.
Right.
So we have no ties, but people are still gravitating to the product, and they pay, above average market rates. This year we're up 16% year to date, and our comp set is down.
Okay.
So
It's pretty good.
that's a good place to be.
Right, for sure.
Pretty happy with that.
So I guess your exposure in New York is somewhat limited to the High Line, and I think you manage Springfield or something out on the island as well. Where do you guys see yourself breaking into in New York specifically, maybe in the coming years, or other than kind of the JFK plan that you're working on now? Can you go into anything else maybe directly in Manhattan?
We are driven by unique opportunities, right? That's what makes the hotel business work.
Right.
So the High Line was a special opportunity. Now we're working on the TWA Flight Center out at Kennedy Airport,
Right.
Turning that into a 505-room hotel, 40,000 square feet of meeting space. It's an extraordinarily complicated project, but it's going to end up being a special product.
Right.
So that's why we like that project. So we don't have a predisposition to invest in Manhattan at all costs.
Right.
We're opportunistic. We're looking at a few different things right now.
Okay.
And maybe they come to pass, maybe they don't.
Great.
But either is fine with us.
So I guess building on the JFK TWA hotel, I guess it's going to be a hotel in the end, 505-room hotel, and you signed a 75-year ground lease, I guess, with Port Authority. Is that an investment that you tend to lean towards holding, or is that something you kind of see a time horizon and kind of an exit opportunity, or is it as the market kind of works its way along?
No, that's a long-term
That's
hold.
a long-term play.
That's a long-term hold. It's taken us a long time to get to where we are. We're going to start construction
Right.
On that project soon, and we plan on investing in that property for a very long time.
Great. And I mean, it's something you really just don't see as often around airports and kind of what's going on with the hospitality industry. You see it, but you don't see anything of I guess, that length and that kind of that volume, I guess, near hotels, because that's a huge project, to be quite frank.
It's a big project.
Right.
We're going to have a 200,000 square foot lobby.
Right.
So that's a big lobby.
Right.
I think that's probably the largest hotel lobby in the world.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of pushes me into where I want to go next. It seems like you've been around the world quite a bit. Where's your favorite hotel that you've stayed at? I think I read something about you staying at over 1,000 hotels in your lifetime.
For sure. The Park Hyatt in Tokyo
Okay.
is a neat hotel.
Lost in Translation?
Lost in Translation.
Right. I was
That's
just in
one.
Tokyo for spring
Okay.
break.
We
Didn't get to stay there, but
Okay.
heard
We were just in Cuba 2 weeks ago
okay.
and stayed at La Nacional,
Okay.
which is kind of the Waldorf Astoria, designed by McKim, Mead, and White
Wow.
down in Havana. So that was very neat. We stayed in a couple of hotels while we were down there. The Chiltern Firehouse is a great hotel in London.
Okay.
The Principe de Savoia in Milan is a fabulous hotel. The Gritti Palace in Venice is a great hotel. But it's not just kind of high-end places. I've stayed in some amazing hotels in the Hunter Valley in Australia
Okay.
that are 20, 30 rooms that have a really special experience. We stayed in a fabulous hotel called the Hotel Baru
Okay.
in Cartagena, Colombia.
Okay.
So I think it had 12 rooms or 14 rooms.
Okay.
But it was neat.
Cartagena is a hot spot right now. A lot of people
Cartagena is
actually
a
wanna-
hot spot.
Yeah.
You can fly
think that
direct
might be an
there
extra-
from Kennedy now.
Right. JetBlue has that
On
direct
JetBlue.
flight. Right.
So
right.
it's easy to get there. It's easy to get back. And I think what people are interested in the world these days now is unique experiences, right?
Right.
You can go to Cartagena. It's just the world is turning into one giant Walgreens. Everything is commoditized. Everything is kind of the same, and people are willing to pay a premium for unique experiences.
Right.
Be they hotel stays, experiential adventures, and zip lining through jungles, and really unique, different things.
Right.
And I think that is the way the world is going. As the world becomes more commoditized, the propensity to pay for unique experiences goes up.
Sure. And when you talk about the commoditization aspect of it, you spoke about it briefly, but elasticity of demand, right? When I think of luxury kind of hotels, I feel like it's almost inelastic to a certain degree. Like someone's willing to pay kind of whatever to stay at a certain hotel, right? At a certain degree. Do you think that's a theme that's going to carry out throughout the entire sector, moving down from like the luxury market down to the value add space, or is it always going to be more elastic across kind of the bottom end portion of the hotel market?
Everything in life is relative,
right?
Whether you're talking about New York City,
I guess we could speak to New York City.
New York City, franchise product is more of a commodity product because there's a lot of interesting hotels, unique hotels in New York City. You go out to secondary and tertiary markets where there is less unique product. We own some Residence Inn by Marriott's that are the best hotel in that entire community.
Right.
Right. It is the Ritz-Carlton and St. Regis and Mandarin Oriental combined
of that
in that submarket. Right. So everything is relative to that market you're operating in. There are 85 brands in the entire hotel industry, and that is everything from Four Seasons to Econo Lodge.
Okay.
And the two highest return on investment brands in the world are Residence Inn by Marriott and Hampton Inn.
Okay.
And
and that's the value space. I mean,
customers love them.
Right.
I think value has a negative connotation to it. I think it's a solid mid-scale product,
right.
Mid-scale to upper upscale product, depending on the market that you're in. But you get good value for your money.
Sure.
Right. You pay $125, $150. It's a clean product. It's a great room. It has some fun characteristics to it, and you get a tremendous amount. When you start paying $500 for a night, right, that's a lot of money.
That's up there, right?
That's a lot of money.
Right.
So you either have to have a very high propensity to pay. Somebody else can be paying.
Right.
It's
your
the OPM,
right?
Other people's money, or you got to be getting a lot of value.
Sure.
When you're paying $500 a night for $125, and you flew to Florida for $40 on Spirit Airlines, that's an incredibly reasonably priced weekend vacation.
Right.
Right. Way to get away for 2 days. So you have to talk about city markets versus resort markets versus suburban business style products. A Courtyard by Marriott in an office park can be perfect.
Right. It's location basis. Right. You've got to look at each location separately.
The demand comes from within 5 to 7 miles of the hotel.
Right.
And it just works. It's a good return on investment.
Great. So I just want to talk a little bit about the disruption kind of in the New York market specifically, and we touched upon it on the panel, speaking to Airbnb. And I mean, you referenced the supply of Airbnb relative kind of to the New York hotel market being around 16% of the 100,000 units of New York hotel space that's on the market. How do you kind of see or foresee Airbnb affecting kind of the next 5 to 10 years of growth in the hotel space, and can you grow on kind of your?
But it's not 16%. It's 16,000 units.
Right.
But they're only available on average 10 days a year.
Right. Excuse me.
So you do that number of room nights available
per 365
versus the 110,000 hotel rooms times 365, and it's about 2 or 3%.
Correct.
Of available supply. It's kind of like having a few extra hotels.
Right.
In the city, and it is taking share from the low end of the market.
Okay.
Right. The person who is going to stay at a Mandarin Oriental or pay $500 a night, they did not consider staying at an Airbnb.
Right.
The person who's super price sensitive, who's staying at a commodity product in the West 30s, is probably looking at Airbnb as well, and probably weighing off the pros and the cons.
Sure.
And as in everything in life, it comes down to risk reward. You can stay in an Airbnb unit, and you'll save some money, and it could be a better experience.
Right.
But it could be a much worse experience. Right. That's the risk reward.
Right.
Whereas if you stay in a Courtyard by Marriott in Manhattan, you know what you're going to get. It's a very consistent, clean, executed product. Right. There's no risk reward involved, but you're going to pay a little premium for that.
Right.
So it depends on your risk profile.
Sure.
And if you want to risk staying next to somebody's kitty litter and on an air mattress, right?
Then go for it. Right,
You take your chances.
Right.
Buyer beware.
For sure. Great. I just want to touch one more on kind of the dynamic pricing, kind of revenue management topic that we covered, because it is extremely important, and it's becoming more and more important, I guess, as the days go on here. Can you talk maybe about one aspect of revenue management where you've seen kind of the greatest maximization from a hotel standpoint that you've seen in maybe the past 5 to 10 years, and what you've been doing from an operational standpoint to maybe grow revenue in any specific way?
So we do all of our own revenue management.
Okay.
We consider it a core competency, and it's incredibly important. So we don't want to outsource it to a third party.
Right.
And we do all of our own training. We have our own revenue culture, and in revenue management, it's death by 1,000 cuts or success by 1,000 room nights sold.
Right.
Little bumps. Right. There's no silver bullet. You can't say in one situation, boy, did I knock the cover off the ball.
Right.
On this thing. It is little tiny decisions that are made every 20 minutes, every hour. Based on weekend business, based on social business that's coming into town, based on Smurf business, based on events and conferences that are coming into town, weather disruptions. Weather comes up sometimes very quickly.
Right.
Sometimes weather is predicted 4 days out.
Right.
And sometimes weather is predicted 4 days out and it doesn't materialize. Right. So it's an incredibly dynamic game.
Right.
Filled with hundreds, if not thousands, of little tiny decisions that end up in either you're stealing share or you're not, right? And you measure revenue management by measuring RevPAR index, right? That's how you compare yourself to other golfers, in our business, and
it's like a handicap, right?
RevPAR index, we track it every week, of every year at every hotel by every day, right? And some days you win and some days you lose. And the days that you lose, we go back and analyze, hey, what could we have done better? How could we have played the risk-reward game here better? How could we have been a little tighter in our projections? And how much risk are we willing to take next week and the following week? In dynamic markets like New York City, where January is a very slow month, and October is an incredibly high demand month, right? Your revenue management strategies and your risk profile are going to change quite a bit.
Right. And you talked a little bit about it being focused more on the human as opposed to computer-based systems. So you attribute it and kind of a credit to maybe hiring the right people that understand the market and can make those kind of day-to-day decisions on kind of what's going to drive value today and how are we going to create kind of more revenue maybe in the expected week or what have you.
I think it's less about hiring someone who knows the market and more about hiring good people.
Right.
And investing in training and investing in longevity. We're very proud at MCR that no one has left MCR as a company. So we've been in business about 10 years.
Great.
And that longevity of team members pays benefits. Right, in our revenue management, our RevPAR index, right? Once you get somebody up to speed and they know a market, they can build on that knowledge.
Right.
Whereas, and that person walks out the door, a tremendous amount of market knowledge walks out the door.
For sure.
That day. So turnover hurts. In our business.
For sure. Great. Well, I think that's everything on my front. I just want to say thanks again for taking the time out today. This was great, and we really appreciate you being here at NYU to talk on the real estate panel.
Sure. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks
for having me.